Welcome to the Success Resequencing Project. I'm Debbie Ponticus.
And I'm Jenn Newman.
Join us as we challenge the traditional definitions of success so you can build a fulfilling path of your own.
Get ready for inspired, candid conversations while gaining tools, inspiration, and confidence to create your own authentic success story.
A fundamental human need that tends to get swept under the rug with those of us who are high achievers is the importance of rest. On today's episode, we are honored to be joined by a well-known and respected beliefs and boundaries mentor, Gretchen Seeck. She is also the founder of Grateful Yogini and the G Soul clothing line, and will be sharing her insights on the importance of rest and recovery in our fast-paced lives. Gretchen has transformed her own struggles with pain and anxiety into a journey of joy and gratitude, discovering that true success is not just about relentless hustle, but also about finding balance and peace. Join us as we explore practical strategies for incorporating restorative practices into your life and learn how to embrace rest as a powerful tool for achieving your highest potential. I'm very excited about today. Gretchen, thank you so much for joining us.
Heck yeah, thank you. We are so happy you're here. Thank you for taking the time.
And today is going to be a super fun topic for all of us. I have a feeling we're going to have a good time. So let me just give our listeners a little bit of background on who you are, and then we're just going to jump right in. Have some fun. So you are founder of Grateful Yogini. Mm-hmm. You're also the owner of G Soul Company clothing line, and co-host of the Nut Farm podcast. Whoop, whoop. So, you're also what is called a beliefs and boundaries mentor, and a yoga instructor, a meditation coach. And, another important component is that you in your past, you've struggled with alcohol abuse. Mm-hmm. But that kind of led you to find your superpower in yoga and unlocked how you help yourself and others and finding this power in self-love and self-acknowledgement.
Yep.
All right. Well,
that's a great intro.
Well, thanks.
I'm here for it.
Okay. So, with that in mind, we have, I think, found in a lot of our Jen and I's conversations and these high achievers that she and I are, and we think a lot of our audience members are too, that one of the things that we all kind of forget to do, which is a fundamental thing in life, is take some time to rest, And what I love about kind of what you bring and what kind of your insight is that idea of like, what does that look like? What does that look like for you and the journey that you've been on and how you work with your clients? Let's just talk about rest for a minute.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I think the general conception of rest means that like you have to be in bed asleep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And for me, that's like, it's so not, for one, it's not real for one, but it can be, you can be in rest and still in movement, if that makes sense. Like I'll use this example. So when you're driving down the freeway and it's so busy and you're rushing around and you're going bananas and your body's locked up and your tummy's in knots and your jaw's, like the way that you can integrate rest into that is drop your shoulders, relax your body, take a breath, tell your brain, okay, we're going to get there either way, however speed we're going to get there at whatever timing, but I'm not going to get there like a nut job. I'm going to show up peaceful. So I think like there brings simplicity to that idea, but also it's just like having a come to Jesus talk with yourself and switching our belief system to rest actually helps me be more powerful. Rest is something that creates space so we can have the clarity, so we can make our decisions faster with like more certainty. And we touched a little bit of this, and like our intuition gets to integrate into it as well. Like you hear your intuition way better when you're rested. There's even times too when I'll have meditation is obviously rest too, but meditation can even be in motion as well. You sit for 3 minutes. Doesn't have to be 30 minutes. Doesn't even have to be a freaking hour. It can be like a minute. It can be 3 breaths where you just give your body, your mind, your spirit, like time to just
Yeah. Can you dissect that word meditation a little bit? Because from someone like myself who I don't practice meditation because I feel like it's a practice, right? I feel like that's how I've been. Yeah. Just my experience or exposure to that word and to what it is something that's foreign to me. So I don't know what it is and what that means and what you're supposed to do. Right. So for those like me, like, what is meditation? How do you do that?
Great question. Okay. And I'm going to like set the scene a little bit. Like I'm in treatment and we have all these yoga mats laid out and just a mindfulness instructor was there. And we were laying on our backs and we were doing a body scan and she was like toes, ankles, shins. And I would freak out and be like, just get through the body. Like just get through your body scan. Like, what are you doing? Like I hadn't grasped how powerful meditation was in that setting. But I'm telling you, even when I fought it early on, it still helped me. Yeah. Thursdays, I would walk out of IOP or whatever I was in at that juncture, and I would be like way more patient with myself. I would show up and I would look at my kid and I would be like his amazingness would hit me a lot harder. I would have patience for, and with that patience, and I'll talk a lot about space today, like creating space, I could love myself more. I could feel myself more. So I released the way that I started to let meditation work for me is I released the expectations of what the hell it needs to look like. My brain isn't going to shut off. Most people's, it won't. That's not what meditation is. Meditation for me is just being mindful of me. What's happening? How's my body feel? What's going on in my mind? What repetitive thoughts are swirling and whirling? That's meditation. It's letting your body be still and quiet and being conscious of your body. But the biggest thing that stop them from meditating is the idea that I'm going to have to sit here and shut my brain off. And then my brain's not going to shut off. And then I'm going to be like, oh, I'm a failure. I can't do this. So I'm not going to do it anymore.
Right. That's kind of like when I've like attempted what I think is meditation. I'm sitting there and Jen is going to laugh. Jen is laughing in her head right now, thinking of me trying to meditate.
I can see her face. Like,
and I'm like, okay, so you're supposed to stop thinking. And then I think, how do you stop thinking? Wait, now I'm thinking. Now I'm thinking about how to stop thinking, but I'm not supposed to be thinking. So let me just pause for a minute. And then I'm like, but now I'm breathing and I'm listening to my breathing, but now I'm thinking about listening to my breathing. So I'm thinking, so I'm not meditating. Like it's I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing.
You're just judging yourself.
Yes.
The whole time.
It turns into judgment. Like I suck at this. Clearly not meant to meditate. So
that's why body scans are so, they were so big for me at the beginning because, and this is how I teach too, is through physical body. Because if you jump up here, it is a shit show.
Yeah, it is. Amen.
It is like a crapshoot, dicey, 50-50 chance that something good's going to come out of it or something. You're just ego's going to get involved in all the things. But like if you start in physical body and you just drop your shoulders and you close your eyes and you can even like right when I do that, I can feel like the tingles that run through my hands and and this will set the stage for this. It'll be much easier.
I love that approach. I think back, I dealt with anxiety as a child and I don't even remember who it was, must have instructed my mom to start walking me through body scans to get me to go back to sleep. And I just had a really twisty gut as a kid, took it all in my gut. For sure. All that trauma and stuff was all stored there. And so when it would get twisty, it set me on a spiral. And so it would wake me up. And when that would happen, I'd be so anxious that I was going to throw up, that was the fear. And so she started doing body scans with me, and that it was like a tonic to my soul to do those body scans. I would go sound asleep and everything would wash away. And my school therapist, when I was in first grade, I mean, that's a whole other podcast. Why is this child in therapy and first grade and having I mean, it was intense. But I remember her saying, relax, calm down. And I would do that in first grade to get my stomach to settle down. To this day, I'll still tap back into that. But the body knows what to do. Yeah. I love that you are saying, though, that start with the physical first, because that will calm the mind. Yeah. It will certainly tell a story about what's going on in the mind for sure.
Absolutely.
So
So is a body scan
want to
like,
lie down and do one
I'm
right now
like,
because I'm like,
literally, I'm like,
they are
okay.
so powerful.
Yeah.
Everything is in us.
Yeah. So for our listeners and me, so a body scan is.
So you
What do
literally
you do?
are walking, you're bringing awareness to every aspect of your body. And as you're doing that, at least for what I have found for myself, please interject, is that as you're doing that, you're just noticing. It's an act of noticing, and it's an act of stillness, and you're checking in if there's any tension there, if you're feeling anything. And as you work your way through the body, you become like a brick. I mean, you are literally so the ground is supporting you, your bed, wherever you're doing it, you're fully supported. You've just truly surrendered to that. And then now the thought of meditating after that, from the sense of that stillness, causes you to just feel throughout your body what's going on.
Yep.
That's
so it's
my
like
really
heads,
bad
shoulders,
layman's way.
knees and toes.
Kind
Head,
of, yes, right? But it is an interesting, it does connect you in such a deep way in that moment to where you are.
Yeah. Totally. And also, like, we talk a lot about self-love, and like, it's hard to just have the idea of like looking at yourself in the mirror and being like, man, you're so awesome. Like, you're the greatest thing ever. But those body scans are self-love, because when we move slowly, we move mindfully. And when we move mindfully, that is self-love. You're paying the freak attention to yourself. The other things that I find so fascinating about, and even now I'm like 8 years into this beautiful journey, and I'll go through my body and I'm braced for impact here and in my stomach 50% of the time.
Same.
And I don't even know it.
Yeah.
Because we're just scooting through our day, living our little life, and heaven forbid anything really like happens during the day, then there's more tightness. So that body scan tells little me, little g, because it's not big G that's getting rocked, it's little g that's getting rocked.
Yep.
Like, we're good. Come back around. You're okay. Relax again. And then ergo the cycle of self-love and mindfulness and paying attention and clarity and all the other stuff that keeps the good motor running instead of the negative motor running.
Yeah. I mean, because you're I'm sure, a high achiever like we are. You know, you have multiple businesses. Yeah. You like the hustle. You know, probably type A. You know, do you feel like you do better when you're in control of situations, or maybe not?
It's a great question. And I've picked this one apart in my head. I'm very analytical.
Okay. Yeah.
So I love the clouds. I love to float, but I like to go. And so the whole I've gotten, and maybe it's just being in recovery, the control piece has been able to, like, I've been able to release a little bit, because I know if I grip too hard, then I'll probably go get hammered and be a lunatic. And I don't really want to do that anymore. Yeah. That's really not my vibe nowadays. And so but great question. I think that there's, it's very in balance.
Yeah. So how do you accomplish that? Like, and I know that this has been a journey for you, right? So I don't want to give the impression that, you know, this was something that came naturally to you, right? How do you feel like you accomplished that? How did you get to a sense of balance and self-love, knowing the journey you've been on and everything that you've had to, you know, overcome?
Great question. So for one, I had like a spiritual experience with control. I had no idea how controlling I was. And it's happened in treatment. My husband was going to take our kid to his best friend's wedding, as he should. And I was like, no, why would you ever think of doing that? I need him. His sleep schedule is going to get messed up. He's going to eat garbage food. Like, so I like freaked out. And so I went to one of the RAs at my treatment facility, and I'm like, I'm using my words and he's not listening and all these things. And she looks at me and she's like, Gretchen, is he safe? And I'm like, absolutely. And she's like, is he loved? I'm like, yes. She's like, let it go. And I bawled myself to sleep. I said the Mother Mary prayer. And then the next morning, all of it was gone. I never realized that I could feel how I'm feeling, like control in this case, in my physical body. And I woke up and there was like a weight off my chest. And then that made me go to the next level of like, oh, I can feel when different things are happening in my body. When my chest tightens, why is it tightening? What's happening? Back to the mindfulness cycle that we go through. So every time I felt that control is in my neck, and it's in my like jaw. So when that happens, I'm like, talk to little G, tell her she's okay. We assess the situation, and I can even have, you guys, you know how many times I talk to myself in my brain and I have conversations with myself, and I'll be like, does this require me to control and kind of insert more of me here? Or is it okay to just surrender and let it go? Yeah. So there's just lots of inner dialogue, but it was profound for me to be able to realize that I have control over letting go of my control, feeling my ego, feeling sadness, feeling anger. It all lives in my body. And if I can pinpoint where it's hitting, then I can go and nurture what part of me needs nurtured for that. Yeah. But it is. And that's where meditation and this rest stuff, circling back, is so huge, because you don't know these things until you give yourself a fighting chance to be still and to rest and to be conscious of you.
Yeah. So are there other like practices that you would suggest, or things that you do that may work for others, that when you feel this kind of the chest tightening, right? The breathing, the jaw clenching, like, and the sense of maybe you're losing control, right? What are things that work for you that might work for others to kind of just snap out of it?
The first thing that you do is pause. Like, there is never anything bad that will ever happen from a pause. And so you pause and you're like, oh God, I'm a stone right now. So then that pause leads you to, okay, I'm going to relax my body. Oh my God, I haven't taken an inhale, or I've been holding my inhale and haven't exhaled in however long. Okay, I'm going to take a breath. And then you combine all those things. So always, even now, like if I'm spinning, my first initial thing is pause and kind of, once again, assess the situation. I don't think enough people like really start their mornings out slowly enough too. That really, really helps to, and it's not like, la-di-da, I'm going to have a cup of coffee. I'm going to do. It's like my mindfulness practice in the morning is like, when I notice that I'm awake, I put my hands on my heart or on my hips, because this is grounding and my heart is obviously giving myself love. And I just like let myself sit there for maybe like a 5 Mississippi, like not long at all. Yeah. And I check in. How you feeling? More times than not, I'm anxious. And I'm like, we don't need to be anxious. We're okay. Like, everything's good. And then I set my intention for the day, that kind of stuff. So that's a really great practice for people to do, and just starting slow. Also integrating things that we normally do, we can make mindful. Okay. Getting dressed, brushing our teeth. If I'm like, if I'm spinning and I feel like I'm out of whack, I'll like make sure my feet are planted while I'm brushing my teeth, being mindful about like my physical body. Water. We all need to drink water. We can drink water mindfully. And you drink water slowly, and you do it with the intention of like, I'm going to nourish my body with this beautiful sip of water. Once again, at the beginning, I rolled my eyes at this so much. I'm like, this is so cheesy. This is so stupid to be able to, but then you start doing it and you're like, oh God, this feels really, really good. And then it just continues to gain momentum and snowball.
Exactly.
Do you feel like, is your husband into this too? Or your kids into this too? Like, how does that play out at home?
Good question. So I'm super, super spiritual, and I am not religious, but I'm very, very, very spiritual. And Steve is not, but he respects what I do. And he's like, it works. It keeps you
right. He's seen the transformation.
Yes. Exactly. And he supports that. My kids, my son is probably a little more like me, and like what we need to like calm ourselves and have like little conversations with. So we've gotten to, and he went through it with me. So like we're joined. He's the reason why I'm alive. Like he truly like, so my Sawyer holds a very special place in my heart, and I'm happy that I get to parent him and give him tools, just like what you were saying in the first grade. Like, it makes me so happy that you had those options to do a body scan. And for a lot of people don't, even now. Right. And so Sawyer we do Reiki. And so I'll either give him Reiki. Last night he couldn't fall asleep, so I went and just laid by him and put my hands on him and gave him a little love. But now he'll do that for himself. And he'll be like, he'll just put his own little hands on his heart. And Willa, I know, will adopt those things too. She's a little young, but every Monday we do, what's our word of the week? How do we want to feel? We take our breaths, we bubble up, and then they go on their merry way. So
it's integrated into their day-to-day life.
And I joke with my husband. I'm like, baby, you can ride my spiritual coattails. I'll hold you.
I got enough for you. I'll bring you along the ride.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love that.
I'm curious for you, was that experience in recovery, in treatment, was that the first time that you had really felt the mind-body connection?
Yeah, it would be very easy to say that. Yes.
Were you chronically... did you have chronic physical issues before treatment? Were you self-medicating with alcohol because you were in chronic pain of any kind?
I wasn't. I was I call it like the perfect storm of, I had genetics were there.
Yep.
There's trauma. And speaking of trauma, it can be any along the lines. Like mine doesn't look like a lot of like insane trauma, but it was still there. And I've got to validate that. And then also like I like to party. Like I liked to have fun. I'm a fun haver.
Yep.
And so it wasn't to mask any pain by any stretch, like physical pain.
Yep.
It was to mask everything that
was going on in your head.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Have you noticed since, like, I ask for multiple reasons, but I know that something that comes up a lot, it just came up with one of my best friends, was she has been on a high achieving path and she reached her max and was dealing with chronic migraines, chronic inflammation, et cetera. And she made the bold decision about 2 months ago to walk away from her job. And so she's now really in a sabbatical period that she's trying to assess what she's going to do next. And she's actually totally okay she's okay.
Good
She's
for
open to what that
her.
means.
Yeah.
She's not had a single physical response other than awesome.
Yeah.
And we were talking about that this weekend, about how incredibly powerful that is.
Yeah.
And I'm someone myself that where whatever's going on emotionally is going to come out physically.
Yeah.
It's just where it is. And so I'm curious your thoughts on how, with that mindfulness, about really being in tune with what's going on in the body and seeing how that manifests. Do you always feel that it comes back to reassurance of your inner child? Is that really for you where it always comes back to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It's little G.
Right.
And it's, and I've also had clients though, that they have chronic pain, and just the idea of unclenching into that, like bracing for impact into that chronic area helps to alleviate and subside some of that. So I'm a firm believer of that. Yeah. And I do really believe that it comes down to talking to our little self.
Yeah.
And also it integrates into reaching a relationship with highest self too.
That's right.
Like little self, little G, she's coming with me no matter where we go. Like,
that's right.
And she's safe and she's good and she's amazing. But it's also like highest self is like, okay, you're at a good position now. Like where all our dust has settled. Like,
that's right.
Now what? Let's go, baby.
That's
like it's go time.
Yep.
And so it's kind of talking to both.
Right.
Like I'll talk to whether it's my highest self or my higher power, like asking questions on where do I go now? Like what am I supposed to do? Where should we? And then kind of like all three of us and
that's right.
my girl, Missy, we joke about having multiple personalities, and I'm actually reading a book on this too. But me and all my personalities just go on our merry way.
Going on your merry way. Yeah. Because you're integrated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great way to put that. Thank you. Instead of split personalities.
You're like, I have very many integrated personalities.
Right?
I'm an integrated person with multi-levels.
Yeah.
What has been one of your most rewarding pieces of coaching clients? Like, what does that look like as you have been assisting others? What has stood out to you? What pattern have you seen as people are healing and being mindful and living into their authentic, beautiful selves? Like what's been something that's been so rewarding about that in your coaching?
I think the biggest one is like, you gave me permission to love myself. And I've heard it a couple different times, just that simple. And there's nothing better, because I know with that's everything. That's the puzzle piece to everything. If you can get that and start to integrate just a teensy bit of self-love, acknowledging that you exist, like just a little bit of importance for yourself, that it just ripples and tsunamis into every piece that you need to evolve.
What does that look like for you? When you define the word self-love and acknowledging someone exists, you exist, what does that look like?
Like right now, it means to me, like, I don't have to put up with crap. If something doesn't serve me, it doesn't serve me, and I don't need to do it.
Period.
Yeah. Period. And that it doesn't mean that it's going to be that easy of a process to get there. Like, I'm a process person. I can't, like, my husband and I joke about, like, he's like a peacock where he can just like digest anything and it can just flow through him and he's great.
Yeah.
I can get there. I can get great, but it's going to take a teensy bit more work for me to process to that. And so it is just like honoring that my happiness is important. My truths are important. My voice is important. And anything that gets in the way of that authenticity and that integrity and that truth and that goodness.
Yeah.
Bye. Love that.
Yeah.
So if you could go back in time and you can pick which time and just pops into your mind and give yourself advice, what would you say? When would that time be, and what would you say to yourself?
Oh, good question. I think it would be maybe like 8, 9, 10, where I started to adopt this mindset that I had to make everybody around me okay. So then I didn't realize this until recovery, but like, I had to make everybody else okay so I could be okay. Like, I made it my job to be the balancing act in my family and the people pleaser. And if I do this, or if I get these good grades, or if I perform here, or if mom and dad are happy, or if my sister is happy, like, it was my job to make everybody happy. I would say that I don't need to do that. And I would say that I would tell her that she's safe, and even though it doesn't feel this way, like, that's not your job. Yeah. You're like a little girl.
Yeah. Just be a little girl.
Yeah.
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 I love that.
I
think that's
do too.
Very powerful.
What do you define as success?
I think success now for me, and I think this question evolves too, from like, if you asked me 8 years ago, it would be like not dying.
Yes. Fair. Very fair.
And then, but now it's like being super, super successful, like financially, doing exactly what I want to do. Like doing things that makes me so, so happy, when I want, how I want, where I want, all of the things, and making bank doing it.
Love that.
I mean, and I feel like I'm still just like a little baby bird on my entrepreneurial journey, but like I consider myself successful now because I've seen it grow. Like, we did our taxes the other year, and I'm like, oh my God, I made money, like coming from like starting my own business. And it was, and a pretty decent amount at that. So I went from like, I used to call myself a sucker, like for so long, all I did was suck. And little G was like, can we please stop calling ourselves suckers? Like, we're not a sucker, to like actually contributing to my family and like getting back.
Oh, I love that.
Got it.
Yeah, that was a whole other journey. But yeah, that's
I love that. And I agree with you. And that's what we say is success is not a defined word. Success evolves, and your definition of it evolves, and what brings you fulfillment evolves. And that's kind of our thing. It's like, success is what fulfills you. And if you can make money doing that, I mean, that's the cherry on top.
That's the cherry on top.
Right. And the way that it makes me a little goofy in my head, and this kind of the stuff that I integrate into my clients' world as well, is like, if you're not happy doing what you're doing, don't do that. Right. Stop doing that. What are you doing?
Yes.
And I wouldn't have, you guys, I was a mortgage banker before all of this happened, and I was the most unhealthy I've ever been in my entire life. But I thought that's what I had to do. I thought that I could make a living, and
Yep.
But it's so different now. And I'm like, our life is too short and too unexpected not to like live it exactly how we want to live it every single day.
I agree. I love that. Yep. Yes. Check.
And there's the other part to it too, because I can feel like I get these little chirps sometimes, and you can hear the people being like, well, a lot of people just need to make a living. And I respect that and I value that.
Yeah.
But you can go, after I got out of treatment, I slanged hams at Honey Baked Ham, and I worked at my kids' school. Like, I knew that I needed to turn a little bit of a profit, but my side hustle was getting my yoga teacher certification and starting that journey. So like your hobby on the side, your side hustle is alive and real. And you do that until the hobby can be your full-time job. Yeah. And now my hobby gets to be my full-time job.
Yeah.
Right.
That's great.
I am just picturing you slinging hams at Honey Baked.
Oh man.
Slanging hams.
Making sandwiches. Easter, Thanksgiving.
Totally. The line out the door.
People freaking love
yes,
the
Honey Baked
hams.
Hams.
No, they really
They do. It's an obsession.
There's a whole thing with the ham.
About honey crisp on a ham or whatever it is that just
the sugar coating.
The sugar coating.
They bring out a torch and they blaze on it.
Oh, yeah.
Totally.
Like, what do we do to ourselves?
Creme brulee on the ham.
Yeah. Creme brulee ham. That's what we're eating. I mean, literally put it that way. People are like, oh, okay.
Not going to lie. As a kid, back in the height of the 80s, you know, when Honey Baked Ham stores were like even that much more than they are today. I remember being that kid. I was like, just bring the ham home, because I would sneak in the kitchen in the early hours of morning and peel the infamous foil back, and I would pick off the chunks of that sugar. Sugar addict, okay? Like full on. Yep. And I think about that's such a core memory to me of every Thanksgiving and Christmas for those damn hams, of having to pull the number, go stand in line, the whole thing.
Crazy.
Such
you guys, I was in Cape Creek the other day, and I walk out of this business and I go, and I'm like smelling, I'm like, there's a Honey Baked Ham around here. And I turn around and sure there was one right there.
And there it is.
There it is. Okay. So you had mentioned earlier that you're reading a book, and we believe that, you know, leaders are readers and all of that. So do you have a favorite book or something that you would recommend? Basically, maybe it's about how to incorporate rest or these routines into your life, or it doesn't have to be. Maybe it's just something that is really moving you right now that, what are you reading today?
The one I always go for in these is Untethered Soul. Michael Singer.
Yes.
My daily reader is Melody Beattie's The Language of Letting Go.
Amen.
So good.
So good.
It's like, I read it every single session in every single one of my recovery centers. It's always relevant. And I think those books help you, once again, create the space that you can go into your brain and you can say, it is safe to rest. Mm-hmm. A lot of the time in our brain, it's like, no, it's not safe because I have to keep performing and I have to do it, because our performance is tied to our worth.
Yep.
And if we don't perform, what happens to our worth?
Exactly.
We're a piece of crap. I can't
Yep.
And the spiral happens, the icky spiral instead of the positive spiral that we all want to go into.
Yep.
So those are really big. I think I've read Untethered Soul 3 or 4 times, and every time I get something new out of it. Yeah.
It's a great book.
It is such a good book.
It's a good one.
I might crack it open again today.
I know.
Thank you for that. Mm-hmm.
Well, we have really enjoyed having you on this podcast. I think I could just sit here and chat with you for hours.
We could.
We definitely need to have you back. Mm-hmm. Where can our listeners find you?
So Instagram is grateful_yogini. We also have the Nut Farm podcast is on Instagram. And my the clothing line is g.soul.co. For G-Soul.
Fabulous.
We're so grateful that you were here. It's just so good to sit in your presence.
So grateful to be here. Thank you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking forward to another episode. You need to come back and we can keep digging in. We love it.
Heartbeat.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Thank you for being here. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
All the things. Okay.
Love you guys.
Thanks for joining us. If you loved this episode and know of someone who would find value in it, please spread the word and share it with a friend. We are passionate about redefining success, and it would mean the world if you could help us get our mission out to as many people as possible. Please take a minute to write a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. You can also hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with our latest episodes. Connect with us on Instagram at Success Resequencing Project or via our website at www.successresequencing.com. We'd love to hear your story.